Alright, so I just got this new car stereo here. Never heard of this brand before. It was pretty cheap. But it's got a touch screen display, AM/FM radio. It also has USB port, micro SD port, Bluetooth, and it also has a backup camera and a dash cam, a remote here, steering wheel remote. Got some wire clamps, some heat shrink. This is the wiring for the new stereo, and this is a wiring kit for the Chevy Trailblazer. And this is actually pretty cool. If you can see it here, but all these wires are all labeled as to what they are, so I don't need a diagram for the Trailblazer. This one here, however, is not labeled, but I have a diagram here. Alright, let me show you the wiring for this stereo. It comes with these two pigtails here. Okay, there's a couple of the wires I removed because they were for like steering wheel controls that I didn't have on my vehicle. This one has all the speaker wires, and for the most part is basically self-explanatory. All the colors match up, but I went ahead and checked the diagram for the Trailblazer as well as the diagram that it comes with in this user manual. This user manual, it's a really small user manual, and for the most part this manual is useless. It doesn't really explain things too well, nor does it tell you how to set up things. It's just very basic. Hey, you have these features, figure out how to use them. But the only thing that was really helpful in this manual was this wiring diagram right here. And if you don't have steering wheel controls, you won't use number 10 or number 13. And those are the two wires I removed from the pigtail of mine because I didn't feel like, you know, taping them or just having those wires just hanging in there for no reason. And the two wires that'll leave you confused and stumped will be number 15, which is labeled on this diagram as high beam, or NC, whatever NC is. It doesn't tell you what NC is, no explanation or anything, and it just tells you that it's the orange wire. The other one that'll leave you stumped and confused a little bit is number 9, which is the parking sensor control wire, which is pink. What I found out when I was hooking up the backup camera, that the backup camera, you know, obviously has a video cable that runs from the stereo all the way back to the camera. Then you also have a power wire that goes from the camera to the backup light, and then another power wire that runs all the way back up to the front of the vehicle, into the head unit, that basically tells the stereo to engage the backup camera viewing mode. Now, the two wires you can use for that backup camera will be number 15, which is the orange wire, or number 9, which is the pink wire. Either one of those two wires will work and will engage the backup camera view on the stereo system. Other than that, it doesn't have an option to manually switch to that view, so you have to use one of those two wires to trigger that backup camera. Without it, you know, the backup camera will come on, but it won't switch the display on the screen without one of those two wires. So you have to have a 12-volt signal going to one of those two wires for that to happen. Everything else was, you know, pretty basic, pretty simple. If you've got experience installing car stereo systems, this isn't too bad. The instruction manual is garbage, so you're gonna have to be a little experienced at installing a car stereo in order to install this one if you decide to pick up one of these. So like I said before, this one's your speaker wire. This one here is basically all your power. You have your ignition wire, your ground, This is the pink wire that I told you. It goes to this. You see, it's wired. This is a really neat video cable. This is the video cable. It comes with the backup camera. And this video cable, you can see it looks like a standard video cable, but then it has this red power wire, positive, also tied in with it, and it has it on both ends. So one end of this plugs into the head unit, and this wire goes to, you know, that pink wire I told you. That's the wire you need for that to work. And on the other end, this plugs into the camera, and then the camera has a positive ground that run off of it to your reverse light, so that when the reverse light comes on, it provides power to the backup camera, as well as send that 12-volt current signal back through this video cable to the head unit, which then tells it to switch to the backup camera viewing mode. So that's how that works. And running this to the back of the vehicle wasn't too difficult. If you kind of stop to think about how or where you can place it, it becomes pretty easy. But the way I did it was, you can see this wire comes up back way up through here, and where it goes is it goes behind my gauge cluster here, and then comes up this column underneath this door seal, and then comes up and rides right under there all the way back until you get to the back of the Trailblazer. And let's see, starting here, the wire actually goes up above the roof liner, and then comes across this corner to where this light is mounted here by the hatch. And then there's a wiring harness with a rubber boot that comes up out the top of the vehicle to the hatchback, and then the wiring harness goes into the hatchback, and then it goes down alongside that interior trim. This interior trim piece you see kind of right here, and goes down, and then from there the wiring goes out, and I had to drill a couple holes, and the wiring comes out by the license plate lights, and then the camera is mounted right there above the license plate. So I did have to drill 2 holes, which wasn't bad. I can seal those holes up and it'll be fine. Other than that, you have, you know, this antenna wire here. For this yellow wire here, this is your 12-volt constant power wire. And on a Trailblazer, for those of you that don't know, there's only 2 fuse boxes. One of them is under the hood up front. So if I were to run this 12-volt constant to that fuse box, I would have to go through the dash, through the firewall, out to that fuse box. The second fuse box is actually back here underneath the back driver's seat. So what I would have to do to get a power wire to that one is that I have to run this wire down through the center console, under the carpet, back here, under the carpet, under the seat, to that fuse box. Which would mean having to take a lot more of the interior apart and fighting with the wire and fishing it through and all that. But I came up with a more simple solution. Not because I'm lazy, but just because it was a good idea. So down here, when I show you this, you're gonna be like, oh, that is a good idea. These are your 2 cigarette lighter pigtails right here. They go directly to your cigarette lighter. And you'll see you have a positive and negative. Now this positive wire, guess what? It's also a 12-volt constant. So what I did, as you'll see, let me put some slack in it because that's still not a very long wire, but you can see here, I cut that power wire and spliced the wires back, and I crimped on a female end, and then on my yellow constant that goes to the stereo, I did the same thing. I, you know, spliced the wires, crimped a male end on there, plugged it in, and then I slid some heat shrink over the top of that and heat shrinked it down so that it won't short out on anything, and it looks nice and clean and professional. And you know, that way, that was a very simple fix, very short run of wire I had to run just for the 12-volt constant, and it works great. Now this wiring in here, you can see basically all I did was twist the wires together and then heat shrink them. I like doing this because it's very clean and professional looking. The proper way of doing it, I know, is using crimps and then heat shrinking over the crimps. But what I found with doing that is then you end up with these plastic pieces, and it kind of limits the amount that these wires can flex and bend when you're stuffing it all back into the dash. And sometimes crimps don't necessarily crimp all too well, especially when, let's see, the wires that came with the wiring kit were a gauge or two bigger than the wires on the stereo I bought. So because of that, I tried doing the crimps, but it didn't really hold too well because, you know, it's one gauge is smaller than the other, so the smaller one kept coming out. So in order to have secure, solid connections that wouldn't come loose, this is how I decided to do it, and it works really well. You know, these heat shrinks, they're on good and tight, they're not going nowhere, they're not going to short out, and it looks nice and neat and clean. Another thing is, I know a lot of people when they install an aftermarket stereo, they have a habit of cutting the OEM pigtail off the vehicle and then wiring the new stereo pigtail directly to those wires. Don't do that. If you're gonna do it, you know, do it right. Go and order or go out and buy a wiring kit for the make and model of your vehicle. What I have here is a wiring kit that plugs into the stock pigtail and then has, you know, wires that lead out from it to wire the new pigtails on. So it basically becomes like an adapter that goes from the stock pigtail to the new stereo pigtails. And then if you ever decided to put this really cool, fancy, pretty stock radio back into it, you could easily just unplug that pigtail and plug the stock one back in. Or if you sell the vehicle and want to put the stock radio back in it, you can do that because you haven't removed the stock plug. If you remove that stock pigtail and you decide to put the stock stereo back in it, or go to take the stereo out and put the stock one back in it before you sell it, or say the person that buys it off you wants to put the stock stereo back into it, they're going to take this apart and go, what the hell? Where's the stock pigtail? Why the hell did they cut it off? Especially when you don't need to. So, you know, if you're going to do it this way. That way, you don't cause yourself a headache down the road or cause somebody else a headache down the road. And then, you know, like I said, heat shrink your stuff. Electrical tape, yes, it works, but over time, electrical tape dries out, it cracks, it falls apart, it comes off. It's not a long-term thing. Use heat shrink. It's much better. It's much more reliable. It lasts longer, and it's less messy. For those of you that like to cut these wires and wire nut them with electrical tape, that is very messy. It's very sloppy. It doesn't even look that good, and it doesn't look like it'd be something that I would trust to hold up. So yes, definitely heat shrink them, wire crimp them, whatever. do something that's better than wire nut and electrical tape. Jeez. I mean, I'm a redneck, but come on. I like my stuff to look nice and clean. So, yeah, now I'm gonna put this thing back together and kind of show you how well this cheap stereo works. Like, I was actually surprised. I mean, for the price, you couldn't beat it. Basically, the only reason why I bought it is because I wanted a stereo with Bluetooth so I could play my music from my phone onto the stereo. But it also had a bunch of other features and functions and stuff, and I figured, hey, you know, as long as the Bluetooth works, I'm happy, and as long as the FM radio works, I'm happy. All the other fancy features, if they work as well as it says, hey, bonus. If not, hey, I got radio and I got Bluetooth. But surprisingly, it actually works very well. Like I said, for the price, it's very cheap and it works well. I mean, for just something you want to slap into a 4x4 Trailblazer or work vehicle, whatever, it's good, you know. Definitely would recommend it. If you wanted to do fancier stuff, you want fancier options, then obviously you're gonna want to get something more name brand. But like I said, if you're looking for something cheap that's more up to date and, you know, works decently, definitely. I'm gonna hook this thing back up and kind of show you through the menu and show you how well it works, what it can do, yada yada. Get right here. I think so. You got your two where two pigtails go. Set this somewhere where it ain't gonna fall. All right, so there's where your two pigtails go into. You'll see here, this is camera in. This is for your reverse camera. You also have two AV inputs. You also have right and left out. Can't remember what this one is, but I think it's an out. Or is it an in? No, it says in. I don't remember what it's for now. Your antenna. This one here, this USB is supposed to be for like a DVR or like a dash cam. I haven't been able to figure out how to get that to work yet. I do have a dash cam that it came with. The stereo did come with dash cam, reverse cam, steering wheel control, which is infrared, and then another controller, I guess for someone in the back seat, I don't know. But also here, this jack here, this is actually for a microphone. If you wanted to put one of those microphones that are normally mounted up on the ceiling of the vehicle right here. It's usually like a rectangle, square, circle right there. A lot of the newer vehicles have it. If you want to add one to your older vehicle, you can do that right here. It does have a microphone on the front right here, but it's not very good. It's not that great at all. And if you look at the stereo here, again, here's that diagram. So if you don't look at the user manual, here's another one. All right, so dash all back together. If you click here, you have your FM radio, you have presets down here. You can set the presets just like any other station or any other radio you have. You select the station you want, you hold the preset button until it saves that preset to that particular preset. See there? The volume controls are very sensitive, very nice. If you press the button, you get your brightness, contrast, saturation, hue, balance right, left, fade front to back, and then you have equalizer, which is rock, pop, off, or classic. If you had it set to one of these, there are no custom equalization settings, I guess you would call them. I don't know. You have no equalizer if you have one of those. But if you set it to off, all right, and then continue pressing, then you have your loud on and off. You go back through. Now you have bass adjustment. You have treble, and that's it. There's no mid. It's not. You don't have that much. You have bass and treble, no mid. So as far as having an equalizer, you really won't have one with the stereo, but you know, it's to be expected with a cheap head unit like this. But regardless, it doesn't sound too bad. If you want that, really good sound, you want that really, optimalized equalizer and stuff like that, you got a more fancy setup with subs and nice speakers, you probably want something a little bit more expensive, a little bit more brand name than this. This doesn't even have a brand name on it. It just says it's a Model P5. Cheap Walmart stereo. But like I said, for the price, it works great for what I need it for. You can see, as far as the mounting goes, like I said before, I had to modify the mounting brackets a little bit with a Dremel, some screws and washers to get it this centered, and even then you still have a little bit of a gap around the edges here. That's about as centered as you can get it in a Trailblazer. Doesn't look too bad, really. And at night you don't even notice it because you can't even see that gap. It's only in the daytime when you see that gap. The mounting kit did come with a like a face plate bezel, but obviously the screen was too big or the bezel was too small. I don't know which. Probably just this cheap radio is probably bigger than it's supposed to fit in that. I don't know. But all in all, I mean, you got a USB port here. You can put a USB jump drive in here with your music, videos, music videos, movies, whatever, right here. This USB port is also used to connect your phone to for the screen mirroring. In order to mirror your phone screen onto this thing, you will have to connect it via USB, and it will mirror your phone screen on there. Right now I have an iPhone, and it ain't liking it, so I tried it. It partially worked, like it showed half the screen, the rest of it was all glitched out, and it was just like telling me basically it ain't happening. But I'm betting if I use an Android phone, it would probably work. So whenever I switch back to Android, it'll probably work. I'll be able to use that function, but until then. And the only thing I would use the screen mirroring for anyway would be for to pull up my GPS or navigation from my phone onto here. So that would be a nice little feature. But regardless of that, you also have the auxiliary. If you hook up like an MP3 player or your phone to this aux port, you'll use this menu here, and if you select it, it's a blue screen. Now if you're playing music, it stays a blue screen, but this auxiliary also doubles as the AV ends on the back. So if you had like a DVD player or something like that hooked into the back of it and you went into this aux, it would then have video instead of just this blue screen. Some other things it has, music, that's for again, if you have something in the USB port, or this micro SD port here, this is really nice too. You can take a micro SD card and put music on it, put music videos on it, movie, whatever, pop it in there. And I think right now I have music videos on here, so if I clicked on videos, it'll actually come up, and then it says TF, but that's your SD card. Then you have some music videos here. Probably for copyright reasons, I probably won't play very much of it, but I'll just show you. I got a really bad glare because of the sun. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, the video quality is okay. It's not the best. It could definitely be better. But again, for the price, I mean, you get what you pay for, but it works really well, given what it is. So, sometimes this touchscreen is not all that touchy, I guess. You can view photos if you have photos like from a camera. You have a camera that's got a micro SD card or whatnot in it, you can pop it in here, you can view photos. You also have a file explorer. Bluetooth is cool. Right now, see, it says Ian's iPhone. It's actually connected to my phone, so it'll tell you what device it's connected to. And I can actually dial a phone number in here and hit call, and it will call that number. That's a cool little feature there too, if I wanted to just dial in someone's number, just keypad and everything. And then over here you have music, and that's the only picture. I wish it had like some kind of animation or something, but it doesn't. It just shows you that you know, that record disc there, or CD, or whatever you want to call that. It looks like a record to me, but that's the only thing it displays while you're playing the music from your phone over Bluetooth. But it does play your music from your phone over Bluetooth, which is cool. You can also stream music from your phone to it. Sometimes, depending on your cell phone service and stuff like that, sometimes there is some lag. But other than that, it works pretty good. This is like contacts and call history. But again, it won't pull my contacts or call history from my phone to this, probably just because either this thing doesn't like iPhones or iPhone doesn't like it, either one. So again, that's something probably work better with an Android. And up here, you have a microphone, and then you have infrared sensor. Now that infrared sensor is for this steering wheel control here, which works really well. So I can volume up, volume down. You know, you got your skip stuff, your call and hang up, your mute button, switch modes, which will take it through the different modes on there. And of course, this one's for the screen mirroring for your phone. As you can see, I zip tied this to the steering wheel because what it came with was this Velcro strap. And the Velcro strap, let's see if I can find it here. I got it in the center console. This is what it comes with. It's just a Velcro elastic strap, and this would go here, and it doesn't hold, to be honest, because of it being elastic and Velcro. When you attach it, this obviously just pivots and spins on that steering wheel, so when you go to push the button, it would just turn. You know, you'd have to put your hand on it back here to keep it from turning to press the buttons. So what I did, instead of putting that elastic Velcro strap on there, I zip tied it very tightly. And as you can see, it's so tight that it kind of sinks into the steering wheel, which is also nice too, because I can rub my hand on here and my hand doesn't catch on it. Also, it's not moving anywhere. You know, I can push on it pretty hard and it doesn't move. It's solid. So if you do get one of these, I would suggest zip tying it like I did. It'll keep it in place. Makes it a lot more stable, sturdy, and yeah, just holds it in place better, basically. It also comes with another remote. It comes with this second remote here. I guess this is for dialing a phone number, and then you have call and hang up. You have your volume, skip buttons, play and pause, power, menu, mode, mute, basic controller. Very lightweight, like it's very feels light and cheap. But I don't know what you really need this remote for, because you have this one on your steering wheel, plus that's in arm's reach, and if you had a passenger, they can obviously reach the screen. It's touchscreen. The only thing I can think of is if maybe you're on a road trip or something and you have an SD card popped in here with a bunch of songs, and someone in the back seat says, hey, I want to pick the next song. So, you know, just there you go, pick the next song. I mean, I don't know what else you would use that remote for, but sure, why not? The dash cam, can't figure out how to hook that up. Well, I know how to hook it up, but I can't figure out how to set it up and actually use it. It's not a menu, or even in the settings, there's no way of accessing it from the device. So I don't know if it's something that with one of those wires, it's something to activate it. I don't know. I would hate to think that they gave me a DVR dash cam for a head unit that it wouldn't even work on, or not compatible with, or I don't know. Who knows? It's a cheap stereo. It is what it is. I still have to figure that out. But all in all, let me show you. Let me go back to the back of the vehicle. I'll pop the hatch back and show you the wiring for the backup camera and where that's at so far. I'm almost done with it. I need a little bit more wire. I was about 5-6 feet short as far as the you know, positive and negative wire for the power to the camera that goes to the reverse light. So let me show you that now. All right, there's a bunch of tools back here. Now, like I said before, I ran that wire up that column there. I ran it across the top here, and then ran it under this. You can see I can just pull this down because I have this seal and everything pulled back. But if you look under this headliner here, that hole right there, that's what I'm talking about, the wires that come out of the vehicle, and they come through this. Let me get up here, this rubber boot. You see I punched a hole in it here, and I'll probably get like some silicone or something to put around that to reseal that hole I just punched for this wire, because I couldn't get the audio jack to feed through this. I tried, it wouldn't fit. So I just punched a hole here and ran it through. And again, I'm just gonna put some silicone here and here to reseal that. But then from here, it comes up under this interior trim up here. And see, here's the power wire I still have to run back through. But anyway, the wiring runs through here to this back panel here, which I had to take off. And on the outside, pull this hatch down. took this cover off. This is the cover for the license plate light, and right next to the bulb fixture, I drilled a hole to bring the wire out, and then I used my Dremel to put a little notch in this here, so that when I put this up flush, it kind of, you know, the wire still comes out there. So again, a little bit of silicone, seal that up so I don't get water up there in the light. Then the wire comes out here to this camera, which I got mounted. Basically figured the Chevy symbol is centered on the vehicle, so I centered the camera with that right in between the two license plate lights above the license plate. And as you can see, it's got 4 LED lights, which aren't that bright, and they're not really necessary since your vehicle has backup lights. But hey, cool. Here's the camera. It's not really an HD camera. The quality is okay. It's good enough to serve its purpose, I'll put it that way. It's good enough quality to use as a backup camera. You can see what's behind you and whatnot. It's basically all you need it for. It doesn't need to be, you know, really high quality, very detailed. But that's how it is. You can pivot it up and down to get the right angle. All in all, it looks pretty good. Yeah, it doesn't look too tacky. It does kind of stand out a little bit. It's obvious it's there. And, oh, look, there's a camera there. Someone following behind you, definitely see that and wondering if you're recording them and stuff. But hey, yeah, that's how I ran that. Oh yeah, real quick. Now, from the camera, so the video cable comes in and hooks to this, but then you got that power wire, and there's also a red and a black, positive and negative, that come back, and it's going to be ran to this reverse light right now, because you have to plug in the camera and then double it back. And since I had to double it back, you can see it fell short, so I just kind of put it in here so it doesn't fall inside the interior trim. But this, got to add an extension onto this, so I continue bringing it back and then back through here. And then once I bring it back through here, it's gonna go back under this headliner and back down. It's gonna go down this column. It's gonna follow this down and around. And I'll have to take this tail light out and tie into that reverse light there. And then I will be finished wiring the backup camera. That's all I have left. I would say from here, going back through that boot and then down, I'm probably about maybe 5 or 6 feet of wire short. And that's only because how I ran the wiring through the hatchback. If this was a car and I was just running this back to the trunk of a vehicle to a taillight, it would have been plenty long enough. But since this is a hatchback and how I had to run the wiring through the hatchback, it wasn't long enough wire to make that run. But I can add to it, splice it, crimp it, heat shrink it. But the reason why I put it on the hatch versus down here is because you can see these are your footsteps here. So I didn't want to put it here and then, you know, somebody step up onto that bumper and kick it or something. And then down here you got, you know, your trailer hitch and stuff, and you know, so anything down there that's too low anyway, really. Kind of want to, you know, a little high up, angled down, so you get a little bit of a better view. So that's why I mounted it there by the license plate. Around the license plate is typically ideal. That's where you ideally want to have it. That's the best region, area, whatever you want to call it. It's where you want it to be. It's usually about the right height, right area, right angle, yada yada. You get what I'm saying. But anything down here, you don't want it on the bumper and stuff, you know. Like I said, I didn't want to get hit, smashed, kicked, whatever. So that's why I ran it that way and through the hatch. Alright. So extend the rest of that wire. The power that goes to the reverse light. It goes under here, down this post. Comes out this rubber boot. And it's wired into the tail light. The green wire is reverse, black wire is ground. Just finished hooking up the wiring for the reverse camera, so now it's time to test it out. So, let's see, put the camera here. You can see what gear I'm in and the screen. Put it in reverse, and there's the backup camera. I'll put it in drive. It goes back to home screen. And if you put on the radio, reverse. So you can't play music while the reverse camera is going, but hey. Put it in drive, radio comes back on. You go to park, and if you go directly to drive, it won't switch. But if you shift through slowly, you can see it'll still flicker. But hey, for a cheap radio, it's pretty good. Okay, in order to adjust the angle of the reverse camera and make sure it's angled right and the placement is right, came to a parking lot. There's a really bad glare because of the sun. But if you put this thing in reverse, so there's a really bad glare, but you can see where the lines are, and it works really nice for down that amount of the sun. Let's say about right there is red, so now I'm going to get out and I'm going to see how far I actually am from that curb, and because I want those red lines to be right on that yellow line of the curb, so I know that when I'm actually close to the curb, those red lines will actually be lined up with that curb, so I'll have an accurate distance. I think I have the reverse camera adjusted perfect now. So the way I set this up, the angle I have it at, when I back up into this parking space here, hard to see the lines. Like I said, the camera, the glare from the sun is pretty bad. When that is lined up with the curb, just like that, I have about a foot from the truck hitch to that curb. Yeah, I'll show you. So that's it. Got it set up, and depending on the angle, the distance there would change. If you angle it down farther, that red line, of course, will be closer and closer to the very back of the vehicle. But that angle right there gives me about a foot from the curb, so that's about perfect. So now I'm done. Reverse camera installed and I guess calibrated, adjusted, whatever you want to call it.